Welcome back to the channel. If you don't know who I am, my name's Luke. I'm a coach for Digit Racing and an 85k driver in Gran Turismo Sport Mode. So Sophy got upgraded to 2.1 with the latest patch from Gran Turismo, and this got me wanting to test something from a coaching point of view. A subject that comes up in coaching quite a lot is there a way to help me overcome race nerves, to help me get used to racing? Is there a way to help me improve racecraft? Now, those things are very hard to teach, and in terms of racecraft in lower ranks, I recently did a series of videos, a racecraft school series for lower ranks, so go and check it out. However, I want to say at the outset, with regard to Sophy 2.1, I was inspired for this video by Womble Leader. So if you don't know who Womble Leader is, go and look him up on YouTube. He did a video about Sophy 2.1, can it give you a good race, basically. Very good video. I like a lot of his videos, show Womble Leader some love. But it got me thinking, by extension to that same train of thought, there's another angle to this. Can Sophy 2.1 be used to address those things that coaching students frequently ask me about? So primarily we're going to be looking at three things here. Number one, can Sophy help you improve your racecraft? So by that we mean wheel-to-wheel racing, racing side by side, reading what's happening ahead of you, reading what's happening behind you, decision making, that kind of thing. The second thing I think we should be looking at is, can Sophy 2.1 help you get faster? And that's an interesting angle, actually, now that I've done a couple of races against Sophy. And then the third one would be, can Sophy help you get used to racing to the extent that you no longer have race nerves or reduced race nerves when in sport mode? So as a whole, can Sophy help prepare you for and get you better at sport mode? Now, I know from coaching, there's a lot of people out there that get very nervous racing. There's a lot of people out there that make mistakes in racing. It makes them not want to race. There's people that avoid their weak combinations because they're afraid of how they'll perform. So I know this is a big problem, and if it's a problem for you, trust me, you are far from alone. So let's work through these three topics then, whilst you guys are watching some B-roll footage of me racing Sophy. Highlight reel here, basically I've just highlighted the wheel-to-wheel action so you can see what kind of racecraft was required in order for me to race with Sophy. So number one then, can Sophy help you with racecraft? The short answer is yes, it can, 100%. Sophy has quite incredible racecraft. It defends, it attacks, it gives room. It doesn't seem to want to go side by side for multiple corners. I will say that. When you get alongside it, it will either defend a corner or concede a corner, which is fine. That's good. But going side by side for multiple corners doesn't seem to happen. But you do need proper racecraft. Now, the one thing to point out here, really to make absolutely clear on in terms of using Sophy to improve your racecraft, is don't treat it like AI. You've got to treat it like a human. You've got to treat it like you're showing it respect, trying to give it space, trying to do the things that you might be struggling to do in sport mode. So if you feel you have difficulty racing side by side with people, if you feel you have difficulty going for overtakes without causing incidents, if you feel you struggle to know how to defend without letting people past, all of that, Sophy would be excellent practice. So yeah, I think that idea's got merit, definitely do, and it's not that sport mode doesn't teach you those things, it absolutely does, and there is arguably no better teacher than sport mode for racecraft. But if you just feel a bit overwhelmed by sport mode, then Sophy is a nice arena, a nice setting to practice your racecraft. You really do need proper racecraft skills here, as you can see from watching this highlight reel. It's a nice way to practice it whilst taking the pressure of the race off of yourself. And from that point of view, from a coaching point of view, I think that's why it's got merits for helping your racecraft, because you're able to focus on the topic of racecraft without worrying about your race results, without feeling under pressure. And that's the angle I'm coming from, that I think Sophy is useful here. Okay, so on to topic number 2. Will Sophy help me get faster? Okay, this is an interesting one. I always told coaching students that there's nothing that can replicate a real race. The simple fact that a real race in multiplayer is against real people is what makes you nervous, that's what causes all the mistakes. Therefore, there's no way to replicate that other than be with real people. Now, that's still true. Okay, nothing is going to push you and focus you like a real race. However, if you are in a state with your driving, with your progression, where you feel that you just aren't putting together good races, where you constantly making mistakes, constantly making errors, constantly making strategy mistakes, racecraft mistakes, ruining your own races, then Sophy could provide a stepping stone in that direction. In terms of pace, I'm not comparing lap times here, okay? So we've got a brand new bop. I'm not about to go into sport mode and see what drivers are doing at what ranks, etc. with the new bot. But if I was just to compare these two races starting from the back, how did they feel compared to sport mode races I've done? I would say they feel like races, daily races where I started from the back because the lobby isn't really that competitive for me. So we're looking at, I think, A rank, maybe even low A plus to some degree. I think that's the sort of pace skill level of Sophy if you were to translate that into driver ranking. So if you are that fast or slower, particularly slower than that, then I think there's a lot of merit to Sophy helping you get fast. It's a way to race. It is a race situation as opposed to doing a circuit experience. And yes, you're going to learn racecraft, you're going to be able to race, you're going to deal with pressure from behind, you're able to focus on trying to catch the driver in front. And if you're right on the cusp of not being able to beat Sophy, then it could well do that. It does seem as though you have to put Sophy on hard tyres. You don't seem to have a choice there. So if you're significantly slower than Sophy, that could be helpful because you could choose to use medium or soft tyres to catch up. But remember, the goal isn't to beat Sophy easily. It's to challenge yourself if you're looking to use Sophy to improve your race pace. So yes, it is possible. I think not as much benefit here as the racecraft topic, but it could help you improve your pace, yes. But let's put that in context there for a second. Everything you do in the game is going to help you improve your pace, whether it's circuit experiences, license tests, racing against Sophy, or sport mode. Sport mode is the absolute king of improving your race pace. Nothing will do it for you like real sport mode races. But if you're feeling overwhelmed with sport mode, if it's all a bit too much, then Sophy is definitely the second best thing in the game to help you improve your race pace. Alright, so moving on to topic number 3. Can Sophy help with race nerves? This is probably the biggest one of all, if we could find a way to use Sophy for this. So I think to directly answer the question from a black and white point of view, if you suffer with race nerves in real races on sport mode, dailies or GTWS, you've got to compete in sport mode to truly overcome that. That's the proof in the pudding. That's ultimately the only way I know of to do it. I'm not a sports psychologist. Perhaps read a sports psychology book if it particularly is an issue. But yeah, you've got to race sport mode to overcome that. But in the principle of separating things so that they can be worked on without overload, that is a principle that is used in many forms of training. You isolate layers of skills so that you can work on them one at a time. In sport mode, you are forced, like it or not, to work on your racecraft and your pace and deal with your race nerves all at the same time. Now, if you could improve your race pace and your racecraft without having the pressure of being in a real race, that would help you improve those two things. But at the same time, when those two things improve, that might help with race nerves when you get back into sport mode. So for example, if you feel you have bad racecraft, that could well make you nervous in sport mode. Improve your racecraft against Sophy, and potentially you will be less nervous in sport mode when you've got to defend or attack or make wise strategy decisions. So in terms of replicating a real race and getting you that experience that helps you overcome race nerves because you've just done it so much, no, I don't think Sophy helps with that at all. There is only one solution for that: go and race sport mode as much as you can. But in terms of separating these three things and working on them individually with Sophy and then collectively coming back to sport mode as a stronger driver, yeah, I think Sophy has got merit now, because with the trick that Womble Leader showed us to basically turn the boost function off, and with how good Sophy's racecraft is, and with how much it feels like a real race, it really does feel like a real race, except for me that I know it's not. That's the only thing that stops it from 100% feeling like a real race. But in terms of AI replicating or simulating human driving, it's the closest experience I've had in Gran Turismo, absolutely. So there you go, there's an angle that probably hasn't been discussed very much with Sophy AI, and I think it's one that's possibly got merit. So hopefully this was of help to you, and if you're interested in coming in for some coaching, please look me up on the Digit Edge website. Otherwise, we will be back again with another video next week. Take care.